Okay, guys, here we go. On 3, 2, 1, go!
I am here with Christopher Townsend, the visual effects supervisor for Marvel Studios Captain Marvel. Thank you so much for talking with us.
You're very welcome.
We are here in the Frank G. Wells building on the Disney lot, and this is where the magic happens, right?
This is where some of the magic happens. The edit suites are up there, the directors are up there. Sort of every day we're all getting together and talking about the film and how to make it better.
So there are so many fun things to tackle in this film in particular because you have other worlds, you have aliens, you have superpowers. I want to talk a little bit about Captain Marvel's powers. We see in the very first trailer her binary powers come to life. It's really, really exciting to see,
Yeah.
but there's so much to that. So if we sort of look at the first shot, where do you even begin to come up with the concept for what that power is?
It's so interesting. Every time I start one of these movies, I think I have no idea how we're going to do this. So you literally start with a blank sheet of paper in terms of what we can do. You look at the comic books, you look at video games, you look at art, you look at all these different things. We have a visual development department here at Marvel who works on all the character designs for all the movies, and I think that one of the first things they do is start amassing all this reference and start illustrating and drawing up these individual ideas and these frames. One of the things that Anna Boden and Ryan Fleck, the directors of the film, that what they've brought to the film is this sort of very naturalistic feel. So what was really exciting was, how do you make a big superhero movie but keep it naturalistic and keep it grounded in reality? We were fortunate enough to have the ability to shoot Brie Larson, who is Captain Marvel, when she was shooting on a test for another film. We photographed her in what we thought were some good poses and shooting some photon blasts and taking into a binary power and all this kind of stuff. And we started working on the effects. We brought that footage into the computer, and we took scans of Brie so that we knew all her dimensions and photographs of her, and we could actually build a physical CG model or a CG model of her that then matched her real model, her real body. We track all that to the photography so that we now have a digital version of that in the computer, and then we started with simulations and sort of keyframe art over the top of Brie, and then we started working on simulations and many layers and many months of work just trying to create the look of trying to find something which she doesn't look like she's on fire. She can't look, her energy has to feel strong. We can't go over her personality. So it was really trying to find all those bits and pieces.
And then once you have that idea of what you want it to look like, you guys have put it through all of those layers, and you start shooting, how do you use practical elements like lights and those sort of things to help the visual effects process?
It's always really tricky of knowing, well, where do you use interactive light and when don't you? And so one of the things we had designed for the set and for Brie were these big sort of light bracelets that she wore, which is LED panels of lights on her wrists. And sometimes we even put them on her body so that she could interactively light up the environment that she was walking through, but also she could light up her face. So a lot of her body is then digitally replaced or enhanced. But obviously we want to keep her face and we want to keep the performance that she's giving. So often it's very useful to have sort of when she's moving around with her lights on her wrists that you have the light moving appropriately.
Well, I love it. It is very punk rock. And then I have to say, this shot is so beautiful. The Skrull transformation that we see on the beach, it's really the first time we get the full idea of what a Skrull can do.
Right.
How do you put together these shots? Because clearly there are two actors playing one role.
It was interesting. It was one of the first transformation we did, the first shape-shifting we did. And Ben Mendelsohn's our sort of lead Skrull. And when he sort of turned up on set, it was one of the first things that Anna and Ryan, the directors, spoke to him about. Like, okay, how do we do this? How should we even, what does a Skrull feel when he goes through this transformation, this shape shifting? Is it painful? Is it easy? Does it take a lot of effort? And I think so. A lot of that comes from the performance of what the actor is going to bring to it. And so, we decided that it does take a lot of effort. it's a very physiological thing that happens. It's a very physical thing that should happen. It's not sort of we didn't want it to feel like just a morph between two things, or just a sort of a dissolve. We wanted it to feel like there's things happening in the body. And one of the big things that we wanted to do is to use the grooves in the Skrull's face. The way they've always been illustrated, they've got these big grooves in the chin and their sort of lines. So we really wanted to use that and have that be sort of almost splitting apart, and then the other character sort of bursting out from within.
So you have these two very distinct shots, and you have this interesting component added to that, which is the movement of the camera. It seems like it must be such a long, sort of painstaking process. How many iterations does a shot like this go through?
Well, there are probably there are dozens of people that are working on a shot like this. It only took, we had one day to shoot it, the entire sequence. And
Perfect.
I know. So it's always a little bit rushed when you're dealing with light. And it was supposed to look like sunrise, when in fact it's sunset, because that's the only time we could get there for the actual shoot. So it's somewhat chaotic when you're actually trying to shoot this. And then artists sit down and then they're starting to really work on it. So it's probably, I think we got to version 350 or something that they were finally submitting. Now, we haven't seen all of those versions. They've done many versions internally, and that they're turning things around very quickly themselves. But it's a phenomenal amount of work that goes into a shot like that. And the painstaking work that goes into individual, the hairs, the way her hair grows, halfway through the process, I said, wouldn't it be kind of fun if her hair just starts in a bun and then just falls down rather than just growing out of her head? So you're making it up as you go, when you're thinking about it, and it's never sort of, you don't go in with a plan of exactly how it's going to go. You're reacting to what you see. So it's a fascinating process.
I have a feeling this next character got you into a real hairy situation because it's Goose the Cat. Cat actors, I assume, have some limitations that human actors don't. How much of Goose is visual effects, and how much of Goose is your wonderful cat actor, Reggie?
Reggie. Well, it wasn't just Reggie. So the complicated thing was there were 4 cats on set. And Reggie was our hero cat, but there was another cat that was good for being held, and there was another cat that was good for sitting. And so some of the shots are, when the cat is floating. Obviously it's not real, and because a real cat can't do that. But there are other shots where the cat is on somebody's lap and just sitting there and doing cat things. And a lot of that isn't the real cat either. A lot of that is the computer-generated cat. I think there were about 100 or so shots in the movie of the cat, and I think 70 of them are CG.
Wow.
So about 2/3 of the shots are virtual.
I've seen this side-by-side shot of the VFX cat and the real-life cat. I personally cannot tell them apart. How do you tell them apart?
One of them's got a collar on.
So that's the big tell.
That's the big tell. One of them has the collar and one of them doesn't. But, yeah.
What if you take off the collar?
Then it gets tricky. And that's the whole point, right? That's what we're trying to do. And and that was really a proof of concept, just to see, because obviously the challenging thing in this film is being able to match the shots so that you can go from the real cat to the CG cat, back to a live cat, and it's really, our job is to never take the audience out of the moment. So we have to nail that, and that was incredibly challenging to get that.
I love it through that lens so much. And you guys go see Marvel Studios' Captain Marvel in theaters now.